Welcome back to another episode of the Snap Count. I'm Emilio Calderon, and I'm joined, as always, by my bi-coastal brother, Caleb Catlin. We are recording a rare special nighttime edition of this pod. Today we are joining together to celebrate a momentous day in American history, and I am talking, of course, about the release of the first ever expanded college football playoff rankings. We are not talking about those, though, because we are here to talk about the other exciting football news, which is the NFL trade deadline has passed. We're going to talk all the deals that have happened over the past 2 weeks. We're going to give them a thumbs up, down, or in the middle. Thumbs up, down, or in the middle for both teams involved. And I'm going to eat leftover Halloween candy while we do it. Caleb, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Like I said, trades that happened in the last 2 weeks, which means we are not going to be grading Devontae Adams to the Jets or Amari Cooper to the Bills. I think the grades for those speak for themselves. So we're going to start coincidentally with another wide receiver trade that happened recently. This trade just makes our timeline, and it's a big one. We're going to start with DeAndre Hopkins to the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a pretty straight trade. The Chiefs received Hopkins, and the Tennessee Titans received a conditional 2025 fifth-round pick. I think it is performance incentive related to Hopkins' performance. But I'm going to go ahead and assume we both have the same answer for this one.
Yeah, that's a big thumbs up. I watched
It's very easy. It's a 2 thumbs up, really. And especially, when we record these, generally they're before Monday Night Football. This is a very rare one to get it in after Monday Night Football. And even before Monday Night Football, I think it was a thumbs up. But after that game,
No, he's smart. It's exactly what the Chiefs needed. They have been looking for somebody, reliable that wasn't, an old tight end. So, yeah, I mean, it's perfect. But he had this one crazy catch over like 3 dudes. It was fucking tight.
yeah, the Hopkins trade was really just a matter of would we get, would we continue to get great production out of Hopkins? Like I feel like old receivers in this league tend to get memed, but I feel like they don't like to be black and white, but it's really I don't know what kind of guy are we gonna get, and it's clear that he's still a guy.
Yeah, and it's even funnier because he got like real emotional about having like a real quarterback throw him the football.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like Kyler Murray, who didn't really care.
We're talking about even though people like we've done enough retconning for Kyler Murray this season so far, but I don't think anybody forgets that the end of the Kingsbury Murray relationship in Arizona was quite bad. So it's been what is that now 3 years? Yeah,
Has it been that long?
I mean, end of Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona.
Yeah, because
Murray gets injured, and then yeah.
Yeah, that is probably 3 years then.
So this gets a thumbs up for both of us. On the Titans side, I'm like thumb in the middle, like kind of leaning up. Like I don't know. I feel like the wide receiver market was really weird this year for trades, especially with a trade that we're going to get to in a few down this list. But yeah, I mean, a fifth-round pick, I feel like he could have done better. But given his age, younger guys probably go for similar compensation.
Yeah, what was it, like a fourth, fifth?
A conditional fifth for next year. Yeah.
You couldn't ask for better as a Chiefs fan, and for the Titans, I mean,
for a Chiefs fan,
whatever. Like add that.
I feel like
garage stuff.
To me that signaled that maybe his market wasn't that strong because when you look at least what Adams and Cooper got, obviously people agree that they are better receivers right now than Hopkins, but still,
I couldn't think of any places that really like needed a wide receiver either.
Like him, right?
Yeah. Like I don't know, like I'm sure you could have airdropped him on like the Chargers or whatever, and it would have been like fine. But it's not a need that they have per se.
Whereas it's not a need per se.
Yeah, literally anybody they could have picked up, honestly.
Staying with Kansas City, they also made an under-the-radar trade that may or may not work out for them. That, of course, is linebacker Josh Uche, formerly of the New England Patriots, coming over to Kansas City This one was only for a 2026 sixth round pick. This one I'm kind of I like and don't like these trades because they're so like in the middle because like
I'm giving it a thumbs up only because I have like a paranoia that he's going to mean a lot in a playoff game.
mm,
I
that's
think
valid,
just
with these guys, yeah.
given the culture and the Patriots locker room, you can easily drop him in a winning system like Kansas City, and I mean hell, get you 5 6 tackles.
Yeah, I guess like without me being too pessimistic, this is a thumbs up for both teams because it's only a sixth round pick. In the case of the Chiefs, you're betting on a guy who has shown really great production. I think it was 2022 was the season he had 11 and a half sacks, and obviously, and last year he and his defense weren't very good, and he's had really limited playing time because it's clear that he wasn't going to be part of this team's future, the Patriots, I mean. And then yeah, the Chiefs getting a pick out of this rather than letting him walk. He is in a contract year, so Chiefs, it's a cheap rental, and if it works out, I mean, Christ, you got this guy adding onto the pass rush, which is not great, but is decent with Karloftis, and obviously you got Jones in the middle. Speaking of trades that are, oh, I thought I would have a segue for this, but I'm just gonna say it. This one got hyped up a lot, and the return was very surprising. I'm talking about Deontay Johnson going to the Baltimore Ravens. This was one of the more surprising trades, I think. Uh, the Ravens received Johnson and a 2025 sixth rounder, and the Panthers only received a 2025 fifth rounder. But yeah, I don't know. This is
I mean,
really
if that's all it costs, like you do that 1,000 times out of a
you did
thousand.
that 1,000 times. Yeah, I think both of us agreed that the Ravens needed help on defense, and it was kind of annoying to see this trade happen. And then when he saw what the haul was, he thought, yeah, like all 31 teams would have done that trade, really.
Yeah, I mean, considering what Dallas paid in another receiver trade,
Oh wow, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We are gonna get there. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
it
We are gonna
feels
get there.
sort
Whoa.
of surprising that nobody else had anything for that. I don't know. This feels like like sometimes you see a move and this like reeks of like a buddy front office type of move. You see this a lot in baseball, where it's like, oh yeah, the Marlins is going to send a prospect to the Yankees because it's a wink wink nudge nudge type of
Yeah,
thing.
because the Marlins, awful, awful organization. Sorry.
Yeah, but I give it a thumbs up on the Raven side. On the Panther side of things, I mean, I guess, man, I'm giving it a thumbs down because like I feel like you could have gotten a
Yeah,
third.
this has to be the first big like I'm sick. I'm physically signaling to show my distaste. Like this is a big thumbs down because Christ, man, like even if I'm being nitpicky here, like Christ, you couldn't get like up there to a fourth or a third, or maybe not a pick swap. Like Christ, man, even if it was a pick swap.
I find it hard to believe that like the market was that dry too,
That's
especially
right.
who else was in the market for receivers.
Yeah, it became clear that, especially with everything that has gone down this season, specifically with the receivers, the market's already been crazy with receivers the past 3 years in the league. But you had the Ayuk saga in the offseason, and then yeah, you had Adams and Cooper. And so you figured, yeah, receivers are in high demand, and this is the best you could get. Yeah, that gives.
Well,
I'm gonna
I'm not
put this
even
in.
going to
I'm
mention.
gonna go. Oh, oh.
I'm not. I didn't even mention the fact that Pittsburgh traded for another lumpy type of receiver when they could have got Deontay Johnson. So yeah, I don't really know if it's like an aggression thing, if it's like a behind the scenes type of nudge deal for the Ravens. I don't know. All I know is that you get that guy for a bag of chips and you pair him next to Zay Flowers and you slot him in instead of having like Rashad Bateman as like your number two guy. Like it's an upgrade all day. I
I
was
hate the
I was
Carolina Panthers.
I, I guess my big thing, and we'll get to that when we get to another Baltimore trade. But initially I was a little squeamish because I was like, wait, that's what they're gonna do? They're not addressing like the primary concern, which I think a lot of teams that ended up making trades, and I had that feeling about.
All right. Let me keep it in the order that I have, which was in the order of the trades as they happened. This one was interesting to me, but I like this, but it is a little funny. Cam Robinson, left tackle formerly of the Jaguars, going to the Vikings. This was another pick swap. So the Vikings settled with Robinson and a conditional 2026 seventh rounder, and the Jags got a conditional 2026 fifth rounder. I'm surprised by this, mostly because offensive linemen are at such a premium. I cannot believe this was all it took, really.
Yeah,
especially for a team, the Jaguars. I mean, that what this is signaling. I guess they're going to be in a rebuild / transition, however you want to brand it. But also, just like how many teams could have used offensive line help this season, and this is all it took.
it's also like weird. Why is Minnesota and Jacksonville the only teams that like dare to deal offensive
This is
linemen?
now the second high profile mid-season trade that has happened for a lineman going to one of these teams.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm more interested like in a future sense because obviously Cam
Yeah.
Robinson is a little expensive, but also like how does he play? How does he play when you shift one of Darisaw or Robinson over to the other side of the line?
Like it makes sense in a very small vacuum, but yeah, long term, that's what's funky to me because this definitely felt like I don't know, any other team that's at or just a game below 500 like takes a flyer. It's not like a flyer, he's hitting 10 million on the cap every year for the next 3 years, I think. But it's an expensive commitment. But yeah, I mean, I guess for the Vikings, they don't really care. That's more of a they're rich get richer in terms of their already great offensive line.
Yeah,
But I
I,
mean,
again, I'm mostly just intrigued like how confident they feel in shifting one of those guys, whether it be Darisaw coming off of a leg injury or Cam Robinson shifting them over to the right tackle. You know, who's going to bear the brunt of that responsibility because you're not going to shift them towards the interior.
yeah. Um, what are you giving this for both teams?
For the Jaguars, I give it a thumbs up, getting off of some money and finally biting the bullet, roughly, of just destroying a garbage fire. Uh, and for the Vikings, thumbs in the middle.
Yeah,
Want to see how it.
same.
I think we'll see the results bear more fruit come like a week 12, week 13 type of deal when he starts to like settle into that group of guys.
All right. I'm going to eat another recess, and then I'm going to pick up the pace here a little because we've still got quite a few trades to get through, and then we've still got winners and losers at the end.
Yes.
Yeah, most of these I think will be going forward will be fairly straightforward, but yes, picking up a little. Got Baron Browning going from the Broncos to the Cardinals. The Cardinals got Browning, and then the Broncos got a 2025 sixth round pick. This one's kind of thumbs in the mid.
I got
It's for
both of them.
yeah.
I think for Arizona, I don't think Baron Browning's going to like completely re-rack the linebacker room or anything like that. But if nothing else, he'll be scrappy in a team that needs more scrappy guys within the box. And then for the Broncos, this allows for more reps for some of the younger guys in that division. So I mean, you said it was a fifth or a sixth rounder.
Sixth rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You'd spend that on another, offhand linebacker type in the sixth round. Like I think it all sort of evens out, and then if nothing else, it lets me know that the Cardinals are at least looking, and I'm very intrigued because this seems like a Gannon type of move.
Okay, you've convinced me. Yeah, I'm going to give the Cardinals a thumbs up just on the economic basis of spending a sixth rounder on a guy you know is an NFL level player. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then for the Broncos, I kind of want to give it a thumbs in the middle, only because again, this is kind of like with the wide receiver market. Its edge was into him. Granted, Browning is not as good as the guys at the top of the market, but still, I guess I should hold up there because this next guy also got traded for a somewhat surprising haul.
Yeah,
But
you know what that Cardinals trade it sort of registered to me like they inquired about that Giants linebacker that I'm forgetting his name.
oh
It's
yeah,
it
Aziz,
seems
yeah,
like they didn't want to pay the price that they were asking for on
that's
that.
true. Yeah,
Yeah, the Broncos got
for
to
the for the Broncos, I guess we're projecting here. For the Broncos, I guess you could say they just wanted to get something because they knew Browning wasn't going to play for this team.
yeah.
Really.
Again,
So
they've
yeah,
got
that's true.
new guys in the wing anyway, so you like this allows for more development on the Broncos end of things, and even if they suffer a little bit, like again, you're not projecting deep into the playoffs with them, even though their record suggests otherwise.
So, yeah, I mentioned that the next guy on this list is also big edge rusher, and this was the big guy at the top of the market. Talking, of course, about Zadarius Smith making the big leap from Cleveland to Detroit. And yeah, this one, the haul for this was kind of surprising to me. The Lions gave up a 2025 fifth rounder and a 2026 sixth rounder. And then they got Smith and a 2026 seventh rounder. Yeah, this one also gets big two thumbs up from me, as far as I'm concerned.
For the Browns
For
too.
the for the Browns too. Yeah, the Browns, obviously are in hell.
Yeah,
This team is not going to win anything, and so to shed a veteran on a fairly expensive contract, I think he's also like I don't know what the number is, but he's similar to Cam Robinson. He's in the 10 to 12 million cap hit for the next, I think, at least 2 years. And so, yeah, getting several picks back is good. And that's for the Lions. And I think for a lot of other teams, a lot of other years, this would be like a gamble. It is still a gamble, but for the Lions, obviously losing Hutchinson, big deal. I've said before, I think this is the Lions window. Like there isn't a like several year window. Like this is it this year. So you kind of have to make this move to ensure your team's fully equipped to get to February.
yeah. I think he'll slot in honestly like a glove. What I'm more
Yeah.
interested in because you're keeping him for more than just this year. Again, it's another
Mhm.
similar. It's a situation similar to the Minnesota deal where it's like, all right, like where are we shifting over either Smith or Hutchinson on that edge rush, and who suffers as a result of it, especially when you're getting Hutchinson coming off of that brutal leg injury, and Zadarius Smith is only getting older. So again, I'm curious what this looks like next year and the year after that. But for now, I think in terms of trying to get a Aiden Hutchinson replacement, as much as you can really call it that, I think it's a great pickup for him.
This is as best as they could have realistically done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like again, nobody was giving up Myles Garrett. He's probably going to be a Browns lifer, and same thing with Max Crosby, going to be a Raider lifer. So, this is your consolation.
And we got two trades coming up which are real funny. We can really sweep these under the rug. This I feel bad because I do like this guy, but the context is not very good. I'm talking about Khalil Herbert jumping from Chicago to Cincinnati. Um, the Bengals got Herbert for a 2025 seventh round pick.
Yeah, it sounds
The actual player they're getting, Cincinnati. I mean, I'm giving them a thumbs up because Chicago signing DeAndre Swift still is one of the most confusing moves of the season to me because they already had a good running back room.
yeah.
And so Herbert was the guy left out after Roshan Johnson. Yeah, the Bengals need help after Zach Moss, I think, just went on IR. And yeah, Herbert is a proven guy. He was really great last year, especially as a career for him. And then giving up the seventh round pick. Good.
I'm giving this a thumbs in the middle, mostly because I don't trust Cincinnati's run game scheme at all.
Okay.
Especially
Well,
again, guys like Zach Moss, guys like
Chase Brown. Right.
Chase Brown. Real those are another set of thumbs in the middle ass running backs where it's like, oh yeah, they might give me like 3 yards. It's sort of like how it's like the opposite of how Kansas City like picks up random running backs, where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get Isaiah Pacheco and he's gonna run for 6 yards a carry, or we're gonna pick up Kareem Hunt and he's gonna come back and give me like 4 to 5 yards a carry.
No, that's valid.
This is
Like,
the opposite side of the spectrum where it's like Zach Moss, give me 3.2.
no, because with Zach Moss, I think, yeah, I haven't watched enough Bengals tape to confidently say, but what I would guess is he benefited from that insane Colts offensive line last year. because he looked really good while Jonathan Taylor was injured / in that contract holdout. But yeah, he hasn't looked bad. He's looked fine, and you just thought he would be above average, and he's just been fine. Like Herbert might immediately be the best running back in that room. Personally, like that's splitting hairs. I maybe, but based on what we saw from him in Chicago, I feel like. But
I think Herbert and Moss are kind of level and level. I think he's probably a little bit better than Chase Brown personally.
Chase Brown.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're talking guys that like will give you like 16 rushes for like 50 yards. Like it's fine. It feels like Zach Taylor calls these plays like
you had such contempt for doing math there.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't.
You're like, where can I calculate approximately 3.9 yards per carry?
Yeah, I was trying to slot it because I was like 16 for 32 is mad disrespectful. So I was like, give him an extra 20 yards.
God, you're calling him 2023 Rashad White. Jesus.
That's kind of how they are. Like, you put Rashad White in that same room, it is probably the same thing. Running backs, man. Like, again, sometimes these play callers, it feels.
I'd like the record to show that Caleb also hates running backs, so it's fine.
So it's not even that I hate running backs more so than, like, I feel like a lot of these play callers make plays for running backs out of, like, an obligatory sense, to where you can tell that they don't really give a shit that they're, like, running a guy into the pit, so to speak. Like, how am I supposed to get excited if they're going to run for 3 yards a carry? Like, I don't know. It just feels like you got to do it just out of.
Brother, let me tell you, I got to watch a Greg Roman offense every week. Let me tell you.
I still, like, I watch you go through the battles of watching the Greg Roman offense. And this, I came on the other side of it, because I was a big Lamar Jackson guy when he first started with the Ravens, and then I watched him in a Greg Roman offense, and I was like, right on.
But he wanted a Kyle Shanahan running game, but he ain't have Kyle Shanahan money. Greg Roman it is then, but literally, bro. Like hell. Oh,
I feel for Justin Herbert sometimes because that's a talented quarterback, but then it's like, yeah, I need J.K. Dobbins to run 27 times.
Okay. Both of them really poor guys. All right, this next one, this one honestly might be the most hilarious trade. No, it is the most hilarious trade of the deadline. It's Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys. Like, why did this happen? Why did this happen?
I need a wide receiver for Cooper Rush.
Yeah, why didn't this at least happen last week? This makes no sense. But before I get any crazier, the Cowboys received Mingo in a 2025 7th rounder, and the Panthers got a 4th rounder. Like you want to know how many catches Jonathan Mingo has had the past 3 weeks for the Carolina Panthers?
How much?
One. Makes no sense. This doesn't make sense. Like, no. I mentioned Mingo in like trade talks last year, kind of as an interesting WR3 kind of guy. So I'm just confused how the Cowboys talked themselves into this.
So you want to know why? And I've sort of came to the realization now. The last Cowboys game that I saw, he looked kind of banged up, so it seems like they're kind of trading in like an insurance type of sense. But even then, like, that's what you had to pay for insurance.
It's like Deontay Johnson. Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, man. You're paying $600 on insurance for a Mercedes with a brand new with a second motor in it.
I feel like it's being too nice.
Yeah, he's probably not.
I'm trying to think of a better car metaphor. I'm not a car guy.
It's like Mazda.
it's like getting the most expensive insurance for your fucking Toyota. I'm like, my brother, you drive a Toyota. You do not need that.
Yeah, slippery transmission.
I can say that because I drive a Honda Civic. You do not need that, brother. Just get the cheapest insurance and be happy with your life. My God.
Get another one too. Like, whatever.
Yeah, get another one. Honestly, it's cheaper. Honestly, my god.
I need the one
This
with
trade.
transmission. It's a thumbs down trade. Real bad stuff. It's insurance that they didn't.
This is the only. This is the only trade where the player from the other team leaving gets a double thumbs up from me. Because what? How did they get the Cowboys to send a fourth rounder? That doesn't make any sense.
Honestly, I would have just signed Michael Thomas if they were that worried. If they were that worried about it, bro. Are you trading fourth rounders for Michael Thomas money?
You know what you just said to me? This is like if 2 years ago you just told me and you did an edge rusher and you told me to sign Chandler Jones, basically.
Same shit. You know, Chandler Jones will probably give me 3 tackles.
Is Chandler Jones even alive anymore? Honestly, I don't even know. Like they snuffed him off the face of the earth. At least social media. It's crazy.
They saw that he was online off the crack rock, and they was like, "We're not signing him. We tried this with Jimmy Graham already."
All right, making a hard left into what is easily the best trade of the deadline period. No prizes for guessing. It is indeed Marshawn Lattimore going to the Washington Commanders. This is a good haul for both teams, really. Washington in this trade receives Lattimore and a 2025 fifth-round pick, and the New Orleans Saints receive a third, fourth, and sixth-round pick, also all in the 2025 draft. Yeah, this gets 2 thumbs up for both
God
teams.
bless, the Saints finally did what I've been telling them.
Finally did what they've needed to do for years now.
They still owe like $60 million. You know what's the worst part about them getting a high draft pick is that they still can't fucking afford it.
Over under, take a guess. Marshawn Lattimore's dead cap hit. I'll set it at 29.5.
It's probably over.
It's 31. It's 31.
It's so much money.
Oh my god, dude. They're already like this year. What are they like? -80 or something?
They're -60. Because they're they literally can't afford to lose that much because they can't afford the draft picks that they're about to get. Like that's how bad it is. Why aren't you trading everybody on the team? I know you got to keep Derek Carr or whatever, but like literally everybody else can go. Why are you extending Alvin Kamara?
Before we get any crazier, yeah, this. I don't know. I don't even feel like I have to explain this. Yeah, this is a home run pick. We said Lattimore needed to go to a contender, and here we are. Just didn't expect it to be this contender.
These players are asking to go to the commies. I love it.
Insane.
I love it. And they've got a better offense. So Dan Quinn gets a better offensive coordinator than he did in the Falcons. I think we're going to see that shit pay dividends. Fuck Arthur Smith. And fuck Shanahan.
I had a good. Oh, can we just before we move on? Can we just appreciate the joy and beauty that is Derek Carr getting Dennis Allen fired a second time?
That was so. I was gonna save that for a winner. The Saints for morale purposes. They wanted him out of there so bad that they hired the special teams coach as their head coach. Like, do you know how bad shit insane that is? That's almost as crazy as chucking. No, that's even crazier than chucking Antonio Pierce as head coach. Hey, I know you were covering the punt team not so long ago. I need you to cover the whole thing right now. Like this seems like an easy way of being like, I don't know if we want to give Clint Kubiak the keys yet.
A second time, man. Like a second time. Like Dennis Allen, Jesus Christ, man.
What's cracking me up is like, how do the Saints pull that move knowing that it didn't work the first time? Like this. It really is the Arrested Development meme where it's like, you know what? It'll probably work for us. The Raiders are the Raiders.
It might just work for us. Oh my god, dude. Alright, anyway. Then the trades we have left are mid-level, but got some interesting potential here. First one's Mike Williams to the Steelers. This one was fine for a 2025 fifth round pick. Oh, who are we giving thumbs down here to?
I'm giving a thumbs down to the Steelers. That's what you deserve.
Really?
Like that's it. I don't know, man. You might as well
No,
just
this
100%
one. No, this one. You know what this is? It it's a thumbs up because Mike Williams plays into Russell Wilson's strengths of throwing outside the numbers. It's a thumbs down because they're committing to Russell Wilson. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I feel bad for Justin Fields and his cowardly football. Um,
All right.
I mean, that's a step.
Justin Fields is now taking the reins as the most exciting backup quarterback in the NFL.
I'd give that to Tyrod.
There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that, man.
I'm gonna keep it real with you. I think Tyrod Taylor is probably that pick for me. I think if you put him in where Aaron Rodgers is doing stuff, I think the Jets are having it.
I think Taylor is just better on a week to week basis, like way higher floor. But Fields is like the
It's
if he
somewhat.
slings it, he could get picked off. But if he doesn't, you never know.
It feels very Zach Wilson-y, where it's like somebody tell him that it's okay to throw the football.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Like I'm tired. I kept watching those Steelers games, and I was like, I'm sick of this 140-yard bullshit. If you don't throw those 300-yard bombs and keep it, I don't know.
But yeah, so Steelers thumbs up or down is very conditional. Jets very easily. I don't know. That's also kind of weird because it's like a thumbs up because he wasn't gonna play really, but also why wasn't he gonna play? Because he's still clearly a good receiver.
Because again, you're not Devontae Adams. You're obviously not Garrett Wilson, and then I forget his main go-to, that old Packers receiver.
Oh, Lazard.
Yeah, like he's not getting.
Lazard just went on IR too, which is why I think this move is funny. So,
I'm sure that'll be fine. Or again, you can keep signing one of those.
It's so awesome, dude. It's gonna be week 12 in 2024. You're gonna be throwing to Jordy Nelson or something. Christ.
I'm saying Michael Thomas. He's got enough time. He got enough time to play.
Another Steelers move. We got Preston Smith coming over. This one wasn't. This one's really under the radar, but it was.
I like
swapping for a 7th-round pick. Yeah, this is a good one. Like, it didn't occur to me that he was on the market, but I didn't realize how little he was playing. Really,
it's another one.
This is a win-win for him.
This is another one of those things where the Packers needed to free up some space for some of the younger guys on the box things. I think the Steelers win because they're not taking on that cap hit that the Packers got to take.
Yeah, I know. They're
effectively playing on a minimum contract in a box that's already really.
Sorry, the Reese is beating my ass on this.
No, that's valid. Yeah, I don't know. And then for the Packers, I mean, the 7th rounder, I probably would have wished they got something higher, so I'm going to give them a thumbs in the middle there, especially since they're keeping the cap hit. Well, I mean, frees up what they wanted to do anyway. They'll be off his books after next season.
Another sneaky good move, I think. This one's very divisive for marriage reviews PFF stats, but talking about Trey White going to the Ravens. Obviously annoyed. We talked about them being the prime candidate for Marshawn Lattimore. Obviously, Trey White is not Marshawn Lattimore. He's not even the Trey White of 3 years ago, but he is a veteran cornerback. And, he's a little physical. He's definitely not what he was physically even as recently as last year, I would say. But, yeah, this secondary needed help, man, because those dudes look like chickens sometimes.
It feels like, and this might be a little off base, but this reminds me a lot of when the Ravens were trying to hold on to the last gasps of Marcus Peters that one year.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what it feels like, where it's like, all right, we've got young guys in our secondary. It's just a matter of having a pretty concrete guy to A, mentor them, or at worst B, just be another dude. So I mean, I think they gave up a 7th for it. So again, this is
they pick swapped. They're not even next year either. So the Ravens received the Rams 2027 7th rounder, and the Ravens sent over the 2026 7th rounder. So
yeah,
I think it's fine. This is a thumbs up for both teams for me.
You lose nothing. The Rams weren't going to do anything with him. It does good by Trey White in the end because, I think after this year, the next will probably be out of the league.
So another depth piece to round out our trade deadline talk. It's Phil Davis going to the 49ers, and this one I also like because real small haul. It's a 2026 seventh rounder. I'm giving this a thumbs up, but especially because it continues to infuriate me, and it goes under the radar that the Niners defense is so weird. Like, they're very good, and they're also so weird. Like, why won't they just defend the run? You are a good team. They're the defensive equivalent of the Seahawks offense. Like, just stop being garbage.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. And I think they're still missing a lot of like their guys. They lost some of them in the offseason. Some of them is just like plain injury stuff. So
yeah, so they did lose Javon Kinlaw in free agency, who is more of a loss in the sense that their interior line has not been good. Obviously, they're still waiting for Drake Greenlaw to come back from his Achilles injury. Just be good, man. Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, if you want smarter analysis, you can go to The Athletic or something. But damn it, dude. Just be good.
Ultimately, I'm just glad that the 49ers didn't try and leverage more of their future than they had to. Like,
they had to, yeah.
You're making this trade with a seventh rounder that doesn't really matter. I'm just glad they didn't, try and break through the glass for something that didn't really move the needle like that.
They didn't really need And that wraps up all the somewhat underwhelming frenzy of the trade deadline. Still, teams that needed to make moves did make moves. Except for one that I'm sure we're going to get to when you get to the losers. But, I was ahead of myself. Yes, that means we're heading into winners and losers. I'd like to start just because I have a real short one to start. That's an extension of something you talked about last week. My first loser is the Tennessee Titans special teams. Only because I have a stat to expand on Caleb pointing out that they are indeed the worst special teams in the league. I have a stat from Bill Barnwell. The Titans are 32nd in special teams DVOA. The 31st ranked team is closer to 10th than they are to the Titans.
Like, the thing is I didn't even pay attention because I was like, oh man, like, what am I keep doing? Beating them down every week? They just faced the fucking Patriots and they won.
These guys, man, Jesus, like Bill Callahan. What kind of circus are we running in Tennessee? My God, man,
dude, it's pretty awesome.
It's like kind of awesome, but it's funny because the offense is kind of a circus, and the defense is awesome, and then the special teams is like. It's like their G League team. It's like, no, man, that's part of the team still.
So this is going to sound really fucked up because you said the G League, but in my mind, I was thinking, like, this special teams reminds me of, like, guys that, like, The Rock would hire in his agency for the ballers. I was like, this is a ballers ass stuff. We're hiring Washington to be our kick return guy.
I thought you were going to say they're like NFL Europe or something.
Nah, like it's
Barcelona Dragons.
It's like when you play the tutorial in Blitz the League type of ad.
These are the guys who get absolutely smoked when you're learning how to use the truck stick. These are crash dummies.
I'm going to roll with a short one myself, but it's going to be winner. And I told you beforehand that I was going to get real abstract with one of these winners.
This is what it is.
My big winner for this week is Blood Magic, Witchcraft. I just saw Patrick Mahomes' Achilles slide off the bone like a turkey leg. It feels impossible that they're A, 8-0, and B, that they didn't have to put Carson fucking Wentz out there. I legit saw this man's leg fucking explode, and he saw Carson Wentz looking out over there and did one of the finger moves to himself, and then immediately got back on the fucking
field. He did the LeBron satanic ritual.
Legit, he did that shit. He looked at Taylor Swift up in the box. He looked at Travis Kelce. He gave
Make
him
the call. Make the call.
They both synced like this type shit. So shouts out to Blood Magic. Shouts out to Witchcraft. That's my big winner for this week.
That's your big one.
Say Satanic Rituals, big winner.
Satanic rituals. This is what the NBA is missing now.
Yeah, and after this, I swear I got real input, but that I just had to get that out of the way.
I'm going to roll with my first real winner as well. I want to keep it at home with the Chargers, but I'm going to go with two guys. I'm going to go with defensive coordinator Jesse Minter and wide receiver Quinton Johnston. I'll start with Johnston, who, in his return from injury, really did make this offense look way more dynamic. He had 4 catches on 5 targets for 118 yards and 1 touchdown. The long was a 68-yard touchdown. It was off blown coverage, but a 68-yard touchdown in the second quarter. He looks pretty good. Like, I don't think he looks like a first-round wide receiver per se, but he looks way better than anything he did under Brandon Staley and Kellen Moore's offense. Like, he's showing an ability to find soft spots in zone coverage. He could still be better in one-on-one and press, like as the X outside, whatever you want to say. But his physicality versus the rest of the skill group makes him very valuable to create opportunities, and just to have something different compared to Ladd McConkey, who obviously we know is going to be a very good 2-3, however you want to say it, to round out skill groups. But these two guys, I guess they're kind of interesting because I think in reality the most likely outcome is Johnson will be like fine/good, and McConkey will be good/great as a WR2 or 3. But I don't know. Fire Brandon Staley again, just so I can feel something. Let's forget DJ Chark, who I'm just not convinced is a real player anymore. Did come off IR, but
he's a theoretical player for sure.
He's a theoretical player. He did play for the Panthers, so that is very theoretical. Jesse Minter, dude, wow, I don't think anybody thought this defense was going to be any good. And I don't blame anybody, because I also thought this defense would be awful. I really thought this would be like a bottom 5 defense in the league. They're first in points per game. They're 8th in yards per game. They're 5th in EPA per play. And they've got a 34.6% QB pressure rate, which is 13th in the league. I don't know. This is insane. The impressive part is they're doing it with very light boxes. They're using light boxes 63% of the time, which is insane to me. So they're getting a lot of production out of like all the personnel, and also without blitzing either. Year 1, Jesse Minter. He's going to get calls for a head coach, and I'm going to be outside of this podcast. I will be spreading propaganda that he sucks total shit, and the Chargers need to be keeping on to him because he's developed one of the best defenses in the league with a roster on paper that, I don't know, a lot of journeymen that people didn't care for. Puna Ford at tackle, Denzel Perriman at backer, T.R. Tart at tackle too. I'm amazed. And that's before I even get to the secondary. I don't know if you wanted to chime in before I started talking about the young guys in the secondary.
Go for it, man. Because you were able to catch the Chargers game. I wasn't able to do it.
That's okay. That's true. I almost set you up there. I don't have any stats on him, but he is getting, at least by eye test, above average play from a secondary that, despite injuries and initial lack of talent. Asante Samuel Jr. and Christian Fulton have both been injured. Fulton was good when he was healthy, coming off a pretty bad year in Tennessee. They've got this past week in Cleveland, they started Cam Hart and Tariq Steele at both corner spots. Both guys drafted in the 4th and 5th rounds. And then they also had Elijah Molden playing nickel/safety. I mean, they're getting guys that casual NFL players or NFL fans will never hear of. Like, even currently, as they're being good, playing well, we'll never hear of. But I
think that's just Chargers tax, to be honest. Though.
That's also fair. But I also wanted to shout out. It was the second quarter, or I think in the early third. No, in the third quarter, the Browns had a terrible first half offensively, and then they received the ball to start the second half. and they drive down the field. Well, not drive, but they march down the field. This drive takes 8 minutes off the clock, and they're on goal to go. And Jameis has I think a corner fade, but he throws it somewhere in the corner by the goal line. And Tarheeb still like has an incredible like basketball jump to tip it to keep it in bounds, and it's caught by Elijah Molden. Like I'm like speechless watching this man. like,
That that's
oh, and
that sounds like a play that would only happen to Jameis Winston too.
to James Winston, that's very true.
I don't know any other quarterback that's getting their ball like tipped back inbounds like that.
But yeah, and then I wrote this down, so I have to say it. Cam Hart is also plays gunner on the special teams. Like it is awesome the amount of production they're getting out of everyone on this team. Um, yeah, I did have one stat from that game in Week 9 versus the Browns. They only allowed 38 yards on 15 designed runs, and that was with light boxes. Like, yeah, we're talking about a Chargers team that under Brandon Staley was quite literally, like literally by EPA, the worst run defense that advanced stats had ever seen. And that's at least like 15 years of advanced stats. Justin Mitchell, man. Half my heart. Beautiful man.
I'm going to go against your positivity with some negativity on a loser.
Let's go.
With somebody that I hold near and dear to my heart. CJ Stroud. Ever since he tried to little bro Caleb Williams back in that Bears game,
I knew you were going to go.
it's been fucking rough.
Yeah.
A bulk of both of our criticism really has went to Bobby Slowick and his rough play calling, but
Which is valid and very true. But
I don't want
right
to
now,
I don't want to shield him forever from the criticism. 11 for 30 on 191 yards and 8 sacks is fucking brutal. I, he's basically gone like full game manager, which is like I don't know. There's like sophomore slump, and then it's like there's like reason to pause for a second. I do think we're mostly still in sophomore slump status because this is normal for
I think it's fair to say it's both.
but
It's sophomore slump with reason to worry because we have reasonably high expectations for him.
it
I think
just
that's fair.
it definitely feels like half the dynamic energy that he would do, the stuff that he would extract out of Tank Dell last season is not there, whether that be
Mm-hmm.
Tank Dell being clumsy with the football or CJ Stroud just like reacting kind of scary to any sort of pressure from a good defense. It's not great, and I do mostly see a lot of this through some pretty unimaginative play calling, especially that super run forward where Joe Mixon is the main person eating off of this offense. Uh, CJ Stroud just looks a little rough, man. And honestly, it seems like that handshake that he gave to Caleb Williams, it seems like they sort of share powers now.
It's funny only because Caleb, on paper, at least statistically, hasn't gotten that much better. So it's like you like the joke here would have been Caleb's been really great, and he's been good relative to how bad the Bears' offense is. But yeah,
No, it just seems like
he unintentionally gave both of them the stink vibes.
yeah, it seems like they're sharing like the same apartment now, which I don't know. It's just rough. 11 for 30.
It's,
That shit blew my mind because I was like, the Jets are like a good defensive team, but they're not
but
great. I don't know. It's rough, man. Especially like
Caleb Williams,
the Jets were begging to lose that game too. They were fucking begging to lose that game, and still,
Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud right now are that tweet that's like two of the dumbest bitches you know right now are going exactly. Yeah, it's
it's
okay. We'll see what happens when Nico Collins gets back. So
yeah. Which I'll get into that later, but I don't know. I still don't really think because again they still got guys that they can throw the fucking football to. Like even if you're not high on Tank Dell, like you've got it's sort of similar to like how Justin
like
Herbert
they've got, I mean,
with
yeah, they
his
got Dell,
guys.
Woods, and Schultz. So
Yeah, and I think I'm forgetting. They bring in this guy sometimes when Diggs and Collins would come out of the game, but they've got another receiver outside of Woods that I think is great. But yeah, man, I need him to pick it back up, and I don't know if it's going to happen this upcoming week either.
Um, it's just funny. I'm going to follow it up with another loser only because it's a real short stat. It's the New Orleans Saints. This is a stat, a hilarious stat, also kindly provided by Bill Barnwell. The Saints outgained the Panthers by 150 plus yards, ran for 150 plus yards, and won the turnover battle. Over the last 20 years, teams that have done that have gone 200, 275 and 0. They have now gone 275 and 1. Congratulations, Marshawn Lattimore. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, man. So I'm gonna follow this up with another brief winner.
I thought you said it. I thought you were going to say another loser. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man! Shut the
I,
podcast off.
I thought about it, but I think I'm gonna just shift backwards a little bit. I want to go back to the Lions Packers game, which I did have a lot for, but don't know like how I want to format it. Particularly, I just want to note Kirby Joseph on
Mm,
the Lions secondary. He arguably shifted the tide of that game, especially after Brian Branch got ejected. 4 tackles, a pick six, and a pass deflection. That defense is honestly what sealed the game, and I'm really curious how, again, you slot in Zadarius Smith where you take a lot of pressure off of that Lions secondary, and things get a lot more even in that regard. Um, they did sort of let Josh Jacobs run all over them, but they were feasting on Jordan Love all game on the pass protection, all game. And honestly, I say that they arguably won in that game because the Lions honestly played pretty conservatively. A lot of their success came in like manipulating the Green Bay defense. I think there was this play where the Packers called like an all-out blitz of sorts at the goal line,
mhm.
and some real clever blocking where they like shifted to the left a little bit and Jameer Gibbs sort of waltzed into the end zone. It's
Oh
really,
yeah.
but for the most part, it's like I watched that game and I was like, the Packers didn't really like get their best showing there. But like if you get a Lions defense like that, I think they're liable to beat any team that comes in like that.
See, this is why I was so high on the Lions coming into the season, and obviously now still with how they're playing, because in a way, Josh Jacobs did have a great game, but the Lions are so good as a complete team that I wouldn't say they allowed him to have a good game, but in acknowledging that this offense was gonna perform somewhere, it feels like they're kind of okay with letting him run, especially inside the numbers, as long as you don't have any of those explosives where you get out and then you have like real explosive play potential.
Yeah,
Because as long as they're getting to the quarterback, like you can take those 4 to 10 yard chunks up the middle every time. Because then by the time you get to the end zone or the red zone, even if you get there eventually, like they're gonna make you pass the ball. And then,
I do want to note that watching that game, it was very wet, very windy, and
yeah, also true.
Jordan Love was very limited in terms of his mobility, harboring that groin injury.
The groin injury,
His
yeah.
his ability to be able to move outside the pocket definitely allowed for that Lions box to really get past their pass protection. But ultimately, I came away with it like the Packers could reasonably beat them when they walk into Detroit next time. I think it's the top of next month. But honestly, I think seeing how guys like Herbie Joseph, guys like Carlton Davis respond when a guy like Brian Branch, who's really, a game changer in terms of how they operate on the secondary, I love it. Those guys are great, man.
I want to build on that because my next winner is also a member of the Detroit Lions, or two members of the Detroit Lions. One of my winners this week, is the Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown connection. St. Brown in this game specifically had a very efficient game. He caught all 7 of his targets, 56 yards, 1 touchdown. Crazier stat is he has now caught 30 straight targets. Per Next Gen Stats, Goff has not thrown an incompletion targeting St. Brown since week 3.
Yeah.
That ties Khalil Shakir for the longest catch streak by any wide receiver since 2016. Also, shout out Khalil Shakir, really random.
In fairness, he did throw a lot of very like standard safe throws. I think the highest he threw was like a 26 yarder, which I think a lot of that was after the catch. I don't know, but mostly those passes are pretty like safe and straightforward. It was only like a modest 145 yards that he threw to him. But honestly, I'll curb from Cam Newton a little bit. That it's elite game management.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It does like you don't have to be very dynamic. I think one of the commentators were referring to him as like a Drew Brees esque type of deal in terms of his efficiency, and I think Drew Brees is more of like an overt gunner type. But I do understand the principle where it's like I know the efficient read where I don't have to, make a big play out of nothing. I can trust my guys like Amon St. Brown to take off after the catch. I guess that is back to me then.
Yeah. Let's,
I'll go with a quick loser. The Falcons' run defense. I truly think how Rico Dottle plays against you will be the big indicator of whether or not your defense is bad or not. I love Matthew Judon, but he's not going to cut it alone. They've got some stuff to overhaul when it comes to the draft in terms of how they're going to deal with the box, who they're going to sign. It's not great, man. You let Dak, get 30 yards off you before I think it was a hamstring injury. I don't know, but it's bad, man. You can't be having Rico Dottle run all over you like that.
I'm telling you, man, this country has lost its way, and they need to start focusing on defensive tackles again. God damn it! None of this woke liberal pass rushing shit off the edge. Where are the 300-pounders at 3 tech or nose plugging up the gaps? Like, come on, man. Jesus. Shout out Dexter Lawrence and Byron Murphy every day till I die. You're kidding me.
Did you have another? Did you have another winner or loser, or did you want me to
I
round?
got two. I got two, one of each actually. I'll keep the loser as brief as I can. I've got a lot for it, but it's very straightforward, and we agree on this. My last losers for this week are Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron because they suck. But and in seriousness, there's one winner from the Bears this week. It was Roma Dunze, who had his best career game so far. Caught 5 balls, 7 targets, 104 yards. But yeah, other than that, they lost 29-9 to the Cardinals. It's the lowest point total of the season.
One of my
Let me read you this rap sheet because dear God, doing this against the Cardinals defense, good grief. The Cardinals generated season highs in pressures, pressure rates, and sacks. Their pressure rate was 46%. Before this week, the Cardinals pressured passers on 26% of dropbacks. It's the second worst in the league, dude. Oh dear. Yeah. And Caleb Williams also didn't have a great game, but I think you and I will both agree that he had as good of a game as a person reasonably could.
So I was preparing to say, like before watching the game, I was preparing to say like, "Oh, Caleb Williams had a bad game." Blah, 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 blah. I think he
He
had a
kind of didn't.
I
He
think he had,
didn't.
I think he had a good game. To be honest, I think when you get that many pressures, I don't know how. There were some times where he scrambled out the pocket and kept the play alive for way longer than it probably should have, and got a ton of plays off to Roma Dunze because he was the only one catching the fucking football. Like Keenan Allen was dropping some pretty obvious gimmies too, outside of just some point. Like I don't know, there's way more promise to Caleb Williams that falls A on the play calling and B on a very bad line.
I don't want to harp on this because, again, I knew we would both agree, but I just want to illustrate that I really, I think I was caught up in the humor of saying they should hold on to Justin Fields, which was never going to be an option. But what the real message there is Justin Fields was not the problem, apparently. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Ryan. I'm not going to say Ryan Poles has failed this team per se, but he has definitely messed up what should have been a foundational year, frankly, in this franchise's history by thinking that Matt Eberflus could be responsible for handling their franchise quarterback. And on a real, like, not being abstract, on a real sense, like, I do maybe, and honestly, it is kind of a failure because I'd be surprised if Eberflus and Waldron survived this year, or at least don't get let go in the offseason, because now they're going to force Caleb Williams to learn a new offense in his second year. And now they're going to have to hope the next coaching staff comes out of the gate hot, because then otherwise, then they're going to be building what is now Caleb Williams' second year, when he should be on the up after this year.
I think so, man. I think they're going to roll with this unit again.
That is, I don't know.
I think they're going to,
That's,
especially considering how many teams are like clearing their slate, they're clearing their full staff. The Saints, likely the Jaguars, eventually the fucking Bengals. I hope. The Raiders. Like you're having a pretty barren strip there, where I think they're going to be like, I don't know if we can really wrangle in a guy that they need, or even just a big name to like boost morale or some shit. Like I just don't know if it's going to be there for them. Where I think they're more inclined to keep their cards close to the chest and let it roll for another year and then go from there.
I think in this case, Shane Waldron is a casualty of sorts. Like, again, I do think he is a good offensive coordinator, and I don't think he's been good. He hasn't been awful, but he hasn't been very good during his time in Chicago. And then with Eberflus, this is his fourth year, I think, with Chicago, and I don't know, like the arguments that or the discourse that happened after the Jets let go of Saleh. Like, I don't know. I think we're in a similar situation of, if anything, I think, like, I'm not going to say Saleh did a better job with the Jets. The better way to put it is why hasn't Eberflus gotten as much flack as Saleh did, really? Granted, I guess that's like a media thing with the Jets versus the Bears, really. I mean, maybe that's a facet of it, and also like the circus that happened with Fields. I'm not going to say. I'm going to say not totally, but Justin Fields innocent, kind of. I don't know. I just don't really believe in Matt Eberflus being the future of this franchise or handling it per se.
I agree. I just don't know if they're going to pull the trigger given the nature of the off-season staff hiring.
But yeah, I don't want to harp too much because I hate these guys.
I will go. I'll go on my last winner.
Sure.
I do not want to ignore much longer how great he's been this season after some reasonable skepticism from the both of us. Lamar Jackson is phenomenal.
Well, let me surprise you, because my last winner is indeed the pride of DMV, the Baltimore Ravens. Because man, shit.
Lamar Jackson was fucking phenomenal. I forgot to insert his stats though. Hold on, because his stats are even better than I could describe.
No, I got you. So they smashed the Broncos 41-10. Before this game, the Broncos were third in yards and points allowed. They were first in EPA per play, and they were third in QB pressure rate. Lamar Jackson did not give a shit about that.
No.
He ended 16 for 19, 280 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 24 touches, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. Zay Flowers, 5 catches on 6 targets, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns, 62 yards after the catch.
So I'll give you some averages. Yeah. That's 17 and a half yards per throw. And that's for Zay Flowers, that's 25 yards per catch. Justice Hill, 14.3 yards per catch. Bro, what? All right, like even your lowest joint with Rashad Bateman, like 8 yards catch. Like it's phenomenal, and I want to emphasize because this was something that I really expressed when Baltimore lost to Kansas City. I was like, I don't know how great Lamar can be in these settings. I was very skeptical at some of it. A lot of it I fell a lot on that Ravens secondary, which I think cooked them a lot.
Yeah.
But now more than ever, I don't know if I'm gonna put much on his plate anymore. I think the James Harden comp that I was throwing out there is a little mean. I don't think it's gonna be his fault. Whatever happens against one of the better
Yeah.
defenses in the league, he was damn near fucking flawless. And I I thought we were gonna do this before the trade
Lamar
deadline.
Jackson and Dak Prescott. Not my fault.
I wrote this, and I wrote this before the deadline happened. I wrote that they owe it to him to tighten up their edge rush and then add a piece in their secondary. Go full 49ers and invest, and they did part of it.
Yeah, part of it.
I think you get more consistency out of Deontay Johnson, and if nothing else, you get another hand on the secondary. I really think they should have been like, fuck it, Marshawn Lattimore, second round pick. Fuck it. Like I legit would have overpaid a little bit to get, to overhaul in the areas that they're still kind of lacking. I don't know that I love their secondary still, and their
Oh,
edge
not at
rush
all. No.
needs an improvement.
I think with the Derrick Henry signing, a lot of us kind of took for granted how good they would be because it was very obvious that Henry would be good for this team. But yeah, like you know, it's Derrick Henry, you know what I mean? And now he's already over 1,000 yards for the season.
Yeah, and
I think
at some point that Father Time's going to get him, but it just seems
not
like
this week,
impossible that
not this year. Yeah.
it's not this year. And I think I don't know. I really wish they went full 49ers and then like fuck it, we're going to give somebody a second round pick and overpay a little bit for when he's down.
Got a good stat from Next Gen Stats. The Ravens have aligned under center on 25.1% of their offensive snaps this season. That's the highest rate since they drafted Lamar Jackson. They're averaging 6.5 yards per play from under center this season. It's the second most in the NFL. So, yeah, like again, it's Derrick Henry, and he, like again, we all know he would produce, but I don't know. It feels so elementary watching them now versus like when they signed him. They thought, oh, what's going to happen? And it's just, I think one we took for granted, definitely took for granted that this was by far, obviously, like way significantly by universe is the best running back that Jackson's played with, and then also that the guys they already have, I've been openly not critical but skeptical of Zay Flowers being like the WR1 in this team, and then he's been great. Sean
Now
Bateman has been much better than we thought he could be.
now that they've got Deontay Johnson, like now they've got more
They've got.
consistency. And this was something that I was going to say for next week because I was really going to zero in on them next week against the Bengals. But I was going to pay attention to how Lamar Jackson has improved in terms of his accuracy. Because of course he can throw the long ball, but his reads, in addition to be able to make those big plays like that,
Yeah.
It's like it's not even him like trusting his receiver per se to make the play. He's gunning it 50 yards down the field and he's making the right play. Whereas most
Yeah.
guys, even the good quarterbacks, will just chuck the bitch downfield. Like I don't know, like I think of Baker Mayfield a little bit where he'll be like, yeah, I can do a real good 20-yarder, but I'm gonna chuck it to Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Kate Otten, for a big 40-yarder, and he'll trust them to make those plays. Lamar Jackson's somehow doing both at the same fucking time. I think that's really nuts, especially when he keeps the play alive when the pocket collapses. It's crazy that he's still improving, years later.
The problem, I think, with Jackson and his lack of playoff success has been just really that the team really hasn't been good enough. And so when you're a dual threat guy who puts up numbers like that, once you get into January and February and like you have to lock in and you have to beat guys every drive.
Yeah, I am
Like
still.
now they have that.
Yeah, I'm still a little cautious because I am bracing for the moment where he like goes back into his like initial instincts where it's like I don't see the play, I'm gonna make the play,
I
and
do think
just
just
run it on his feet because like I
yeah,
understand
I understand.
it's less of like a secondary skill sometimes, whereas sometimes it's just like I'm not gonna wait for the play. With the Broncos game, I was seeing him, I was seeing the Broncos collapse that pocket, and he would still stick around to make the play.
Yeah.
Whereas, especially in the playoffs, if a situation like that happened, he would immediately go to gun it and run the ball. And sometimes those aren't very efficient plays, especially when you're not getting the receivers in groove at all.
I wrote these stats down for Zay Flowers, so I do feel like I should shout him out. The game against the Broncos in Week 9, he had 4 catches for 111 yards and 2 touchdowns off in-breaking routes. Like, only in-breaking routes, which is kind of crazy. I forgot where I got this stat, but he's got 311 yards off in-breaking routes. That's the second most in the NFL. So, yeah, like, just on a practical level, like, this team is so great because you've got Jackson, dual threat guy, literally does it all. You got Derrick Henry, who on his worst day is going to get you 3 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry. And you've got Zay Flowers and now Deontay Johnson, and honestly, like, I feel like we have to clip and Rashad Bateman, who are really great at consistently getting open. So,
I do want to note that I feel like they made that Deontay Johnson trade because of that play last week where he threw it to Rashad Bateman, I think. He into the fucking sun and then, gobbled the shit. And I was like, yeah, no, it was either him or Nelson Aguilar. And I think one of them upstairs.
It was one of them.
One of them, they were just like, I'm fucking sick of this shit. We're going to get him another goddamn receiver.
I was trying to get to this point in my brain by hammering it in. But yeah, on a practical level, like, you can't play defense against these guys because Jackson, like, you can play man, but these guys are pretty good at getting open, so they're going to beat you like a few times a game. And then you can't play man necessarily because you got to keep guys near, but you got to play zone so you can defend the run better. So it's like, what do you do against this team, man? When they're firing, there's nothing you can do against this offense, man.
I'm very interested if they get the opportunity to face the Chiefs again. I don't know if they're in the regular season. I forget their schedule off the top of my head. But if they face them in the playoffs, I'm very interested how Spagnuolo
coaches up this.
Yeah.
Like, how is he going to send pressure?
They're probably the best defense in the league, without a doubt. And it's the reason why it's probably the primary reason why they're still undefeated all this time later.
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah. We'll get to that in like 2 minutes.
So I'm very, very, very curious if they meet in the playoffs and how Spag schemes against them, and how, again, my big issue in that game is if Lamar gives up on plays and tries to run it himself.
Damn, I haven't thought of my total stuff. I want to move on from the Ravens and into the 2-minute warning, but I guess the way we can look at them is the Ravens and the Lions offenses are similar. Like, the Lions are the practical offense and the Ravens are the sexy offense. And so I'm really curious to see which one will succeed when we get to January and February.
I would love to see, ideally, I would like to see them in the Super Bowl, but again, big winner of the week is blood magic, so you never know. Yeah, man. I don't know.
All right, so we've now summoned Satan for the 2-minute warning. Shout out to LeBron James, Bronny James, and Taylor Swift. Apparently,
next podcast is going to be sponsored by the Illuminati
and hymns. Don't forget hymns.
I can go throw my because you had you had.
I settled on one game that I think will be good. But yeah, what do you got?
I still never decided between the two, so I'm gonna give just brief goes for both of them. Of course, I'm interested in the Lions and the Texans because Nico Collins comes back to this game. He could be rusty, which could affect things. And again, that Lions secondary, real great stuff. I am curious how Ben Johnson and Jared Goff go up against that 2-man Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson attack, and how many times does Jared Goff get sacked? Because again, we're always fixated on this hyper efficiency with Goff. So how many times does he get sacked, and how many times does that allow for a guy like Stingley and the rest of the Houston secondary to lead off of that? And yeah, I mean, I would love it if CJ Stroud got his head out of his ass and decided to play football. I don't know if that's going to happen, especially now that Zadarius Smith is going to come in and work in that box. But I don't know. The other side of things, I've got a real weird pick, but I'm fascinated by it. I would love to see Jaden Daniels against that Pittsburgh defense. We noted in that Bears game that Kingsbury was playing very conservative against Sweat and all those guys. Um, Curious how they go up against like a TJ Watt. Do they lean more conservative or do they try and get a little bit more dynamic? Do they get a little frisky? And can the commies scrap their way through to Russell Wilson and make him look like the usual Russell Wilson that we're used to? Especially, unfortunately, we're not going to see it yet because Marshawn Lattimore is still dealing with a hamstring. But very curious, because the commies have been scrappy, all things considered. So if they can get through that Steelers O line and make Russell Wilson a little uncomfortable, I could see Jaden Daniels coming away with that one. I'm just curious, like, how safe do they play it?
Funny pick, but I think could it has the potential to be one of the most interesting games of the season, although equally has potential to not be. I've got the Broncos at the Chiefs. Yeah, it's a funny. The Broncos coming off a huge loss in Week 9. Chiefs coming off a good win when they had to earn. It's a Tampa team with a lot of fight. Um, I think, funny enough, the Chiefs have the Bills next week or next week, so that will be their biggest game of the season on vibes. Like honestly, just on vibes. I think this is like their biggest game of the season just on paper because we shouted out DeAndre Hopkins. So
Division
like
game is
really for the Chiefs, it's really plainly can you win against this Broncos secondary because it's one of the best secondaries in the league. I mean, the Ravens did show us the blueprint. Again, no team in the league other than maybe Detroit is as good as the Ravens in this. But
yeah.
if you force them to respect the run and play zone, their defense gets all out of whack. Like if they can't just rely on PS2 like blocking up the WR1, then that's not secondary. Um, but yeah, for the Chiefs, this will be by my count the second great defense they'll have played. Played the Chargers in Week 3, but that was a really ugly game for both teams. Frankly, Chargers offense was not good, terrible in that game, and they won thanks to a literal like Madden touchdown to Xavier Worthy. But other than that, both teams were not very good in that game. So I'm curious to see how they come up against. I mean, they did have to have a scrappy game against a Tampa team that notably did not have its two best wide receivers. But
Yeah. On the back half of the schedule, this was one of 3 games that I'd forecasted that they could lose. Um, they might pull away here because they're at home, but they face the Bills in Buffalo. And they face
in
the
Buffalo,
Raiders.
yeah.
That's a wash, but that's the second game that I thought was interesting. Probably beat the Raiders. They got the Chargers. The Chargers will walk into the Chiefs. They'll probably pull that one away, but then they'll walk into the Browns. Solid defense. I think they'll still come away with that. Texans Chiefs should be interesting, especially if they get their shit together.
It
But
could be interesting.
I do think when they walk into Pittsburgh on Christmas, uh,
Really? Oh,
walking to Pittsburgh on Christmas, their territory. I think that defense could be strong enough to at least make Mahomes uncomfortable. And then the week after that, they face the Broncos at home on January 5th. So those are the 4 games where I could see they still have potential to lose. Um, I think they'll probably split it and only lose 2 games this year. I think I think they'll lose that last Broncos game, especially if they're gonna try and chuck that game away. But yeah, especially since they're not at home, they're getting a lot of these next few games at home. At least the big ones, with the Broncos, this first Broncos game, with the next Chargers game, with the Chiefs, with the Texans. Yeah, mostly interested by this, but
I
I
just
don't
want to
have.
point out.
Yeah,
Oh, I just want to point out that the NFL was too cowardly to run a game on January 6th. That's all.
I
It's
need the
not
day
actually. It's because week 18 they always play on Sunday. But I just want to point that out.
Joey Bosa, he needs the day off, man.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm happy for him. He's going to do January 6th, regardless of who wins, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Regardless of who wins, he's going to do it anyway. You'd be like, that shit look fun. I want to get in on that.
No, he's
Who
marked.
do the 49ers play?
He's he's, he's marked out for personal reasons. I can't hear you, pal.
Oh, they're playing the Cardinals in Arizona in Week 18. So, I mean, it's not that long of a plane ride to DC.
Bro, on the first
Right.
plane out of there, that's crazy. Him and both brothers just out there. The Shaboyne brothers.
It's assuming Joey makes it on a plane. He's always fucking injured, jerk.
Yeah, valid.
All right, that's it for us.
Capital Stable. Yeah.
That's it for us. Remember, kids, don't buy Halloween candy until the day after Halloween.
Yeah, I didn't take advantage.
It's fine. It's fine. You're doing yourself a favor. No, we've got like over 100. We just put a bowl. Well, my girlfriend put them in a bowl because she wants them to look nice. So shout out to her. But yeah, we've got like over 100 something of Reese's and Kit Kat.
Can we agree that Reese's is the best candy?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like I don't have a list because I'm not a candy guy. Like I like to eat candy, but I like don't eat it that frequently.
Yes.
But yeah, at the top of my head, it's Reese's and Trolley gummy worms. Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably.
Why? What do you get? Why? What do you got? Off the top of your head, like let it rip. What do you got for me? Like pick three. I guess. Sorry, I know I put you on the spot.
Reese's,
Recess,
Snickers, and
Snickers.
Starburst.
Okay, I'll give you Starburst. Snickers, huh? That's interesting. Like top three, like because it's always like it's solid. It always hits, huh? Is that it? Is that where we're going?
There's like a complexity to Snickers that I think goes a little. It goes a little.
The way,
like it's not
the way the way you just said there's a complexity to Snickers is the same way when I'm at work and I'm trying to describe coffee to people.
no bullshit. That's how I thought of it. Like I was like, yeah, man. Like this is just straight to the point. Like with a Kit Kat straight wafer, Butterfinger straight to the point. You get like 3 different fucking layers on a Snickers. You know, I'll end it on this. You know, you're gonna have a good Snickers when it's got the dick vein on it.
It's true. It's just science. Yeah, it's basic science.
If it doesn't have the dick vein on it, you might as well go back in the store.
Go back into the store. That's crazy.
You might as well just be like, I think somebody tampered with this.
There's beauty to be found everywhere, whether it's in factory-made chocolate or in coffee grown at 1,500 meters in Colombia. Yeah, you know how we end. Whenever you're listening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, and God bless whatever happens to this country. Jesus. I am still talking about the expanded college football playoff rankings, obviously.
Obviously.
All right.